Morning, 7th grade. Today, this is going to just summarize our Zoom lesson today. We talked about China and Chinese history and how China used to be a dynastic or empirical type of kingdom for thousands of years, where you had dynasties ruling and that went linearly through the family side. Now, since 1911, there was a revolution by Sun Yat-sen who overthrew the dynasty program through Western influences. Now, we talked about what are Western influences. So Western meaning more European influences like different types of government, new trade, new economic policies and ideas, new dress wear and culture. And so we're going to see that Western influences are going to infiltrate a country or an empire that had been literally insular. It was doing its own thing for thousands of years. And then in the 19-teens, all of a sudden, China experiences a revolution. We're also going to see that China is going to start changing its political, social, and cultural ways up until the 1940s. When Japan invades China during World War II, to start World War II actually, that's going to have a tremendous influence and interruption to China and Chinese history. And that's one of the reasons why the Japanese and the Chinese culturally don't necessarily get along that well now, because of that invasion of Manchuria and China during World War II. We also looked at that how after World War II, about 5 years after World War II, in 1947 to 1949, that China is going to experience a civil war. We're going to see a complete overthrow of the old ways of China and a creation of a new communist China. Mao Zedong is now going to take power. He's going to create the Democratic Republic, I'm confusing that with North Korea. The People's Republic of China is going to be created after World War II in 1949. And what Mao Zedong is going to introduce is a lot of new policies, trying to make China a more industrial nation. Get rid of some of the old agricultural agrarian ways, and with this new Great Leap Forward concept, taking farmers and having them manufacture iron into steel, etc. And so you're going to see that China is going to try to make itself a more industrial nation, a more powerful nation on the global scale. It's not going to go so well for China. In fact, we're going to see thousands of people try to become it's really millions, try to become iron workers and steel makers, and we're going to see famine where millions of people are going to be killed. In fact, 3 million people killed themselves to suicide alone during the Great Leap Forward simply because of malnutrition, malnourishment, famine, starvation, and it was just awful. And so we see that this Great Leap Forward doesn't really do a good job of making China a true modern industrial nation. But Mao Zedong and the communist regime basically say, we're going to make sure that our government and our society looks like that of the Soviet Union and their communist society. So it was a way to try to become more Soviet-like. And the Soviet Union would actually have a lot of influence over China in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So that's kind of where we look at. We also looked at some of the benefits of communism after the war. With a nation just destroyed after World War II, communism actually helps China in a way because people are going to somewhat receive equal treatment, equal goods, equal amount of pay, equal everything, sort of. It's really going to be the bottom of the barrel society, the lowest denominator of the people that are going to receive this equalness, this fairness, whereas the divide between the wealthy and the poor is simply going to increase over time. And that takes us into our next our next lesson on China, where you're going to be looking at the Great Leap Forward. You're also going to be looking at the Red Guards, and you're also going to be looking at how China then entered a period of literally getting rid of the old and becoming more modern. I hope you enjoyed this morning Zoom, and I hope you enjoyed this flick. I'll see you next class. Be good.